Listen, Chris, they can't know that you're in Salt Lake City. You know what's happening to people at Boeing. Last time I was here, sitting right there was some dude that was blacked out. And I asked him, what do you do, Chris? He goes, I'm an inspector for Boeing. He was bragging about getting up at work. What do you do, Chris?
I'm an airplane inspector.
You are inspecting airplanes. Which airline?
Boeing.
Boeing, all of them? What? Fuck.
Hey, if it ain't Boeing, we ain't going.
I'm not saying a word. Hey everybody, my name's David, and welcome to another Studio 64 Science, Space and Tech News update. Yeah, I've been searching the interzones as usual for some more science, space and tech news to share with you, and I came across this at, love the name of this website, Ars Technica.
Arse biscuits!
Yes, it's the technical arse, or, cybernetic arse. Come on, Elon, hurry up and use your, Neuralink to give us bionic bottoms. Fantastic. All right, let's check this out. The first crew launch of Boeing's Starliner capsule is on hold indefinitely. Surprise! Not. NASA will share more details once we have a clearer path forward. Yes. There we are. Boeing's Starliner spacecraft on the eve of the first crew launch attempt earlier this month. Yes. Very, very interesting. Yes. Nice paperweight. Yes. The first crewed test flight of Boeing's long-delayed Starliner spacecraft won't take off as planned on Saturday and could face a longer postponement as engineers evaluate a stubborn leak of helium from the capsule's propulsion system. Really, quality control issues again. Wish they could do this with their planes, or they could, you know what I mean. Beforehand. Yes. Before they get off the ground. NASA announced the latest delay of the Starliner test flight late Tuesday. Officials will take more time to consider their options for how to proceed with the mission after discovering the small helium leak on the spacecraft's service module. Now, I know this has got nothing to do with Boeing aeroplanes, but as I said, if they use this same philosophy with their Boeing aircraft, maybe they wouldn't have so many issues. Now, the space agency did not describe what options are on the table, but sources said they range from flying the spacecraft as is with a thorough understanding of the leak and confidence it won't become more significant in flight. Jesus. What if the toilets are going to overflow on this spacecraft? Or a hatch will blow out, or bits of engines and wheels will fall off, to removing the capsule from its Atlas V rocket and taking it back to a hangar for repairs? I'd be doing that. Theoretically, the former option could permit a launch attempt as soon as next week. The latter alternative could delay the launch until at least late summer. Better to delay than death. That's what I say. The team has been in meetings for 2 consecutive days assessing flight rationale, system performance and redundancy, NASA said in a statement on Tuesday night. There is still forward work in these areas, and the next possible launch opportunity is still being discussed. NASA will share more details once we have a clearer path forward. Delays are nothing new for the Starliner program, but it's not yet clear how this delay will compare with the spacecraft's previous setbacks. It's the same as in their airline division. For God's sake, stop doing this DEI rubbish, this diversity, equity and inclusion garbage. I don't care what someone's sexual preference is, or bloody, how they identify, or any of that garbage. And if they got pink hair, who cares? Are they good aircraft mechanics and spacecraft mechanics? I don't give a crap about your bloody politics. Make sure these vehicles are safe to fly. It's just nuts. It's a Boeing sacking all the bloody white engineers when they've been there 30 years. They're the ones that not only had the experience, but they could teach the young ones coming along how to stop this crap from happening. Stop it. Unbelievable. Software problems, and they just punish the whistleblowers for speaking out instead of solving the problem. Unbelievable. Do you think that your the latest, Boeing whistleblower deaths are, how shall we say, going to solve the problem? They're not. Of course they're not. Unbelievable. Just sweeping it under the rug. I think it's terrible. The fact that these people have died is absolutely appalling, right? But it's whether you believe they died through some form of, foul play, or whether you believed it was by their own hand, they died. It's a terrible thing. But it's not solving the damn problem that Boeing's got with both their aircraft and their spacecraft. It's unbelievable. Software problems cut short an unpiloted test flight in 2019, forcing Boeing to fly a second demonstration mission. Now, Starliner was on the launch pad when pre-flight checks revealed stuck valves in the spacecraft's propulsion system in 2021. Boeing finally flew Starliner on a round-trip mission to the space station in May of 2022. Concerns about Starliner's parachutes and flammable tape inside the spacecraft's crew cabin delayed the crew test flight from last summer until this year. Dear God. It's not like a piece of software. If it doesn't work, you reboot your computer, right? In home. It's not going to be the end of the universe. But if you have to reboot computers because of, software problems when you're in space or flying your aircraft, it makes it a bit difficult. Boeing aims to be the second company to fly astronauts to the space station under contract with NASA's Commercial Crew Program, following the start of SpaceX's crew transportation service in 2020. Assuming a smooth crewed test flight, NASA hopes to clear the Starliner spacecraft for 6-month crew rotation flights to the space station beginning next year.
Oh, ma'am, you really shouldn't teleport when you're pregnant. I'm afraid your only choice is air travel.
If you are seated in an exit row, please hold the door shut for the duration of the flight.
I love this. In the doghouse. In trouble, yes. Oh boy. Engineers first noticed the helium leak during the first launch attempt for Starliner's crewed test flight on May the 6th, but managers did not consider it significant enough to stop the launch. Oh, really? Okay, I'm not an aerospace engineer. If there's any aerospace engineers watching this video, please feel free to comment down below and what you would think with a helium leak or any kind of leak. Do you think it would be considered enough to stop the launch? I'd think so. Ultimately, a separate problem with the pressure regulation valve on the spacecraft's United Launch Alliance, or ULA, or User License Agreement. Looks like somebody else didn't read the United Launch Alliance documents. Yes. Who does? We just tick the box and go on, don't we? Atlas V rocket prompted officials to scrub the launch attempt. Now, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams were already strapped into their seats inside Starliner's spacecraft, the Starliner spacecraft on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, when officials ordered a halt to the May 6th countdown. Wilmore and Williams returned to their homes in Houston to await the next Starliner launch opportunity. Oh, dear, oh dear. ULA, I still can't believe that stands for User License Agreement. Returned the Atlas V rocket to its hangar, where technicians swapped out the faulty valve in time for another launch attempt on May the 17th. NASA and Boeing pushed the launch date back to May the 21st and then to May the 25th as engineers assessed the helium leak. The Atlas V or 5 rocket and Starliner spacecraft remain inside ULA's vertical integration facility to wait for the next launch opportunity. Boeing engineers traced the leak to a flange on a single reaction control system thruster in one of 4 doghouse-shaped propulsion pods on the Starliner service module. Yes, in the doghouse is very appropriate and ironic too. Fascinating. There are 28 reaction control system thrusters, essentially small rocket engines, on the Starliner service module. In orbit, these thrusters are used for minor course correction and pointing the spacecraft in the proper direction, which pointing it clearly back to where all the engineers should be working on it to fix the bloody thing. The service module has 2 sets of more powerful engines for larger orbital adjustments and launch orbit maneuvers. Now, the spacecraft's propulsion system is pressurized using helium and inert gas. The thrusters burn a mixture of toxic hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide propellants. Helium is not combustible, so small leak is not likely to be a major safety issue on the ground. However, the system needs sufficient helium gas to force propellants from their internal storage tanks to the Starliner's thrusters. So even while the helium is not combustible, it needs helium gas to force propellants from their internal storage tanks to the Starliner's thrusters. So this leak continued to cause issues. So you're saying that the propellant wouldn't come from the storage tanks to the thrust units. Oh, goody. Absolutely fascinating. Thought we got something else going to fall out of the sky. In a statement last week, NASA described the helium leak as stable and said it would not pose a risk to the Starliner mission if it didn't worsen. A Boeing spokesman declined to provide us with any details about the helium leak rate. Yes, now, if NASA and Boeing resolve their concerns about the helium leak without requiring lengthy repairs, the International Space Station could accommodate the docking of Starliner through part of July. After docking at the station, Wilmore and Williams will spend at least 8 days at the complex before undocking to head for a parachute-assisted airbag cushioned landing in the southwestern United States. After July, the schedule gets messy.
Ice biscuits!
I think it's already messy. The space station has a busy slate of multiple visiting crew and cargo vessels in August, including the arrival of a fresh team of astronauts on a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft and the departure of an outgoing crew on another Dragon. Now, there may be an additional window for Starliner to dock with the space station in late August or early September before the launch of SpaceX's next cargo mission, which will occupy the docking port Starliner needs to use. The docking port opens up again in the fall. Now, ULA also has other high-priority missions it would like to launch from the same pad needed for the Starliner test flight. Later this summer, ULA plans to launch a US Space Force mission. It will be the last mission to use an Atlas V rocket. Then ULA aims to launch the second demonstration flight of its new Vulcan Centaur rocket, the Atlas V's replacement, as soon as September. Well, very, very interesting indeed, and a little bit on the worrying side. I'm glad they're not launching it, obviously, until they got the bugs fixed, but come on. You know, hopefully not launching it until the bugs are fixed. But, you know, it just seems to be something that just seems to be following, Boeing around. Get your quality control right. Similar thing happened with Qantas, Australia's airline. It was listed as the safest in the world until we started to outsource using DEI and all this sort of stuff and increasing profits and whatever. The maintenance division. And then what happened? No longer the safest airline in the world is Australia's Qantas. Fascinating, isn't it? And we're seeing the same thing happening here. Except on steroids. Fascinating, isn't it? All right, well, my name is David. Thanks for joining me for another Studio 64 Science, Space and Tech News update. I shall see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're up for it, drop a comment down below the video because I'd love to hear what you think. All right, take care. And as I always say, if you can't be good at it. And as I also always say,
I'll be back.